Hello friends and welcome again to our channel The Teacher. In this Word 2016 tutorial video, we are going to learn about how to display and use guides and gridlines to position your objects more precisely. You can also use guides and gridlines in Microsoft Excel and PowerPoint. Gridlines makes it easier to align shapes and objects by giving you a visual clue in relation to objects, documents, worksheet and slides. You can show or hide grid lines and can also change grid and guide settings by choosing from a variety of predefined options. Keep in mind that grid lines do not print if you are showing them on a presentation or document and are also not visible during a slideshow. However, in Microsoft Excel, it is possible to print the grid lines which appears by default on a new worksheet. Let's first talk about grid lines. In Microsoft Word, when you hold and move an object like a picture, shape or word art, you can notice that it moves freely. Means the object is not jumping to a specific distance when you move it and is totally relative to your mouse movement, and that is the default behavior. Now let's turn on and show grid lines on page. You can show grid lines either from the Align drop down menu from the Layout tab if there is no object inserted or being selected, or if there is at least one object is selected, then you can show grid lines from the Format menu under the same Align drop-down menu. You can also turn on and off Show Grid Line option from the View menu as well. After turning on grid lines, if now you insert and move a shape, you can notice that the object is not moving freely. Instead, it is jumping one step over each grid line and is precisely snapping with horizontal and vertical grid lines. By default, shapes and other objects will snap to the nearest intersection of grid lines only if the grid is visible. This is called Snap to Grid Lines. Once you turn on Show Grid Lines feature, the default behavior automatically changes to Snap to Grid Lines, and the object starts snapping with horizontal and vertical grid lines, and you cannot then place the object between two grid lines. This feature is really helpful when you are working with several objects in a time and want to place each object exactly at a desired position. While working with those objects which are smaller in size, then you can also turn on Ruler from the View menu and can then zoom in to have clear look of object and its position. After zooming in, if you look at the ruler and the grid lines, you can notice that the distance between two vertical or horizontal lines is around 0.1 inch. Actually, it is 0.13 and that is the default distance when you turn on grid lines. But you can increase or decrease the distance between two lines by clicking on the Align drop-down menu and then click Grid Settings. In Grid and Guides window, below you can see the setting for horizontal and vertical grid spacing, which is 0.13 inches by default. So if you want more exact and close distance between objects, then you can reduce the spacing between horizontal and vertical grid lines. Like I can set it to 0.05 for horizontal and 0.02 for vertical. And after applying the changes, you can notice that the grid view now has changed and you have more grid lines over the page with more close distance between them. So, while arranging and aligning different objects, you can change grid spacing as many times you want according to the distance you want between different objects. As I had said earlier that while viewing grid lines, objects automatically start getting snapped towards grid lines when you move them, and you cannot place an object in the middle of two grid lines. But if you want to place an object at an exact position while viewing grid lines, then you can hold down the Alt key while moving the object, and then you can again freely move the object without getting it snapped with the grid lines. And you don't need to turn off the grid lines first. Other times while working with objects without showing grid lines, you might want to snap objects according to grid lines or one object with another. Then you can again hold down the Alt key to start snapping objects without actually showing grid lines on screen. So holding the Alt key while moving objects behave in both ways. When viewing grid lines, you can hold the Alt key to move freely and then also hold the Alt key to snap objects according to grid lines or with each other when not having grid lines on screen. If you open the grid settings window, you can find an option at the very bottom, snaps object to grid when the grid lines are not displayed, which is unchecked by default. So as I said before, objects move freely when you are not viewing grid lines. But if you enable this option, then while not viewing grid lines, your objects will still be snapping according to hidden grid lines. You can enable this option if you always want to snap objects according to grid lines. Either you are displaying them on screen or not. Then you have another option of object snapping in grid setting, and that is snap objects to another objects. If you enable this option and then move one object near to another object, then Word will automatically try to snap them together. See, as I move one object close to another, it automatically gets snapped with the another one. If you uncheck this option, then you can freely move objects and can place them at any distance. Another option that you might find useful under grid setting is, if you enable display grid lines on screen, then you have the option to have steps between grids. Like as we had previously changed the horizontal and vertical grid spacing, and we now have more grids on the screen, but if you want, then you can have steps or gaps between grids. Like if I change the vertical or horizontal values to every 2 numbers, then the first thing you will notice is less number of grids on the screen. But if you move an object, then you can notice that it is still snapping according to horizontal and vertical spacing, but the only difference is that you now have less grids on the screen, but still have same horizontal and vertical spacing between them that you had specified in grid settings. Now let's open a new document and see some other grid settings, and that is grid origin. Before I tell you about this setting, let me first set the page margins to narrow. If now I turn on show grid lines option, you can see that by default grid lines are getting drawn on the entire page, but leaving exactly the same amount of space from all the 4 sides of the page according to the page margins that you have defined, and that is the default grid settings when you show them on screen. But if you want to have grid lines on the entire page, then you can uncheck use margin option under grid origin. So this was all about showing grid lines and its corresponding settings. And if you have made certain changes in the grid line settings and want those settings to be your default settings for every new document, then you can click on Set as Default button in Grid Settings window. Now let's talk about alignment guides. In Microsoft Word and PowerPoint, guides help you to align elements around your document according to paragraph, margins, and page. In PowerPoint, they help you to align one object with another existing objects. Before I start illustrating you about alignment guides, make sure guides are enabled, and to do this, click the Layout tab and then click Align drop down button and make a check mark on Use Alignment Guides. Also open the Grid Settings window and enable all the options under Alignment Guides section. First, we will talk about the margin guides. As I have a picture in this document, and if I move this picture to the very top of the document, and as I reach close to the top margin, a green guideline appears indicating that picture is exactly aligning with the top margin. If I move the picture a little bit to the right, then another guideline appears showing that picture is exactly matching with the right margin. However, I can push and can take the picture outside the right margin if I want to. So these are the margin guides which appears when you move objects close to the page margins. Let's say if I want to position this picture at the top left corner of the page, then as I move the picture near to the top left area, both guides indicating that picture is perfectly positioned at top left corner. Same guides also appear if you move the picture to the top center of the page or into the middle of the page. Now let's talk about page guides option. Page guides appear when you move an object to the outside of the page margin areas. If I move this picture to, let's say, outside the right margin and close to the right border of the page, then the guide appears indicating that object is positioned to the right edge of the page. Same guide also appear if you place an object to the outside of the left margin and close to the left page border. But you are only allowed to place an object to the outside of the top and bottom margin according to the selected wrapping style. I mean, you are only allowed to take an object outside of the top and bottom margin area if the text wrapping style is either in front of text or behind text. Microsoft Word will not let you take an object outside the top or bottom margin areas if any other text wrapping style has been applied. You can also watch our video about how to wrap text around objects for more information. So if I choose, let's say, in front of text and then take the picture close to the top or bottom edge of the page, you can see that green guideline indicating that object has been placed at the top or bottom edge of the page. Keep in mind that placing objects close to the page edges is not recommended because objects might get cropped during printing. The last guide option is paragraph guides, which are very helpful when you need to align an object according to paragraph. As I move this picture around the paragraph, the paragraph guide appears indicating that the picture is perfectly aligned to the top edge of paragraph, and if I move the picture a bit to the right side, then the margin guide appears and this picture is now perfectly aligned with the top edge of the paragraph and with the right margin. So this was all about using guides and grid lines in Microsoft Word documents. I hope you will find this video informative. Do leave a like, comment and share this video. Thanks for watching. Bye and take care.